Again, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to episode 4 of Digital Food Week TV. We continue to shout from the rooftops about the incredible hospitality industry we have here in Leeds. And of course, we are just a few days away from opening up now for indoor dining and drinking as well. My name is Johnny Ianson. This is a Chapter 81 production in association with our friends at LeedsBID, the people behind Welcome to Leeds. Obviously, it's not just me here tonight. As ever, over in Boo's Corner, propping himself up, is LeedsBID.
I'm doing all right so far. Tonight, Johnny, we have got the 4th instalment of Bud's Brewery Tour. You'll remember earlier in the week, I said something ridiculous about wine, which betrayed my utter lack of knowledge when it comes to wine. I said something like, that's a bit acidic on the tongue, isn't it? So I'm pleased to say that tonight I'm going to be fully schooled in how to taste wine. Thank you to the Yorkshire Wine School for that. And on this very surface, I'm going to put some beautiful fat buns and get my hands all over them. You heard me right.
Can't wait to see that in high definition. So let's have a look at what else is coming up on the show this evening on Digital Food TV. Loads of wonderful guests for you, including the following, who'll be sat next to me in just a moment's time. Ben David will join us from Meatless Farm. Those fat buns, courtesy of the swine that dines. We'll have wine from the Yorkshire Wine School. Also with us on the show tonight, we'll have a look at what the Little Red Food Truck is doing. Larry's been at the Wild Child Brewery. Beth is cooking up pasta with Sato. Harry's out at Chapel Allerton. I've been speaking to Phil Harrison about the nighttime economy and the most amazing harmonies and live music from the Sunflower Thieves later on the programme tonight. All right here on Digital Food TV, so loads to come for you. Let's introduce our first guest then. We can't talk about food without talking about the huge rise in vegetarianism and the amount of people that are going on a plant-based diet. So it gives us a perfect opportunity to talk to Ben Davey, who's here from Meatless Farm, based in Leeds. How you doing, Ben? Thanks for being here.
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Lockdown, I guess, has been a difficult time for a lot of people. I'm making a guess, though, that for you as a company, it's been a pretty busy period.
Yeah, we've not stopped. We've kind of been flat out for the entire year, which has been really, really fortunate for us. We've all kept our jobs and carried on growing.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Meatless Farm then, because you are a global brand based from here in Leeds.
Yeah, started in Leeds about 3 years ago, a guy called Morton, and it's grown massively over the last few years since then. So now we've got offices in New York, we've got a plant in Canada, we've got Singapore, we've got a massive office in Amsterdam as well. So we kind of focus on plant-based food, so everything from burgers, sausages, meatballs, and a load of other new stuff. Kind of originally kind of plugging that gap for meat eaters who wanted to drop their meat consumption, and with a mission to kind of make it easy for those kind of people to eat delicious food.
Yeah, one of the most popular questions or common questions I get being a vegetarian, apart from where do you get your protein, is always, because I like eating meat substitutes, is if you want to eat meat, why don't you just eat meat? And the answer is, well, because I don't want to eat an animal, but I still love the idea of meat. Like, I like how meat tastes. I just feel a bit very guilty eating it. And that's where you guys come in. It's about making something that's authentic, but made from plants.
Yeah, exactly that. And just, again, it's, for me anyway, it's about making things easy for people. So if you do want to swap out sausages and cut down your meat intake, it's not about replacing it completely necessarily. It's just about making it a little bit easier to, 1 or 2 meals a week for your family or yourself to kind of drop your meat consumption down, which has a huge impact on the globe, whether it's environment or has a massive knock-on effect.
You've had an interesting story to get to where you are now, because a lot of people would assume that you would have spent your life eating mung beans and wearing hemp, but you are a meat eater.
Not a million miles off. Once upon a time. Yeah. I've always eaten meat. I still do.
Still eat meat?
Yeah, I still eat meat. I just recently, this wasn't the plan since working with Meatless Farm, but I have, for some reason, I've dropped my meat consumption massively. Like, during the week, I just don't really touch it. At home, we don't eat meat as a family, really. And it's not, I don't know, I do know why. Well, it's just gradually kind of crept in there. And now when I do eat it, it's a decision rather than just sort of blindly just picking it and eating it and not kind of asking the question, where's that actually come from? Now, if I do eat it, I want it to be that know the farm it's come from, know it's had a good life, and know the journey. And because of that, I'm eating significant amount less.
Yeah, the rise of the flexitarian, which to me is just people that eat everything.
Yeah.
If you want to put a label on it, I guess that's fine. But as long as, and I say this trying to be neutral, as long as meat consumption is reduced, I think we all appreciate, no matter whether you're a carnivore or not, that we have to eat a bit less. It's probably better for everybody.
Yeah.
Not just about the animals.
Yeah. So it's making it easy, because I don't miss it as much, because when I do have it, I make it count and I really enjoy it. And you know what? Because it's a conscious decision, I thoroughly enjoy it. Whereas before, I'd just sort of, like I say, blindly kind of eat it. So for me, it's about making it easy for people. So it doesn't need a label. It's just food, and it's delicious because it should be. Yeah. Because especially with vegan and vegetarian food, it's natural, vibrant ingredients. So it should be incredible. How
do you make something that isn't meat taste meaty, though? Because that's just voodoo.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of there's flavour, there's mouthfeel, there's the aroma. We've been working on a burger that has that, when you have that grass-fed like beef burger that's been smashed and grilled on a plancha, and it's got that crispy crust on it, and then you've got that kind of that beefy fat on your lips almost at the end.
Really salivating.
Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing, and you can achieve that, and there's a massive gap for that, and people want it. It's interesting because that kind of, if you're a vegan and always have been, that'll freak you out if it's too much like meat. If you kind of were or are a meat eater but wanting to swap out, it's kind of where you want to be. So it's kind of finding where it kind of sits, and that. Yeah,
it's also quite a handy gateway for people that are wanting to move away from meat as well, rather than just cutting it out and going straight to the vegetables.
Yeah, which is brutal. I mean,
it is brutal. Yeah.
That's a hard thing. You can't expect anyone to do that. Well, you can. People do it, but that's
miserable. Trust me.
That's hard. And it doesn't need to be that hard. And then you start questioning why it is you're eating meat in the first place, and do you really need to eat as much? And then the benefits for the environment and your health and everything else that goes with that. Yeah. For making that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. You can stay with us for the show. So stay exactly where you are. More booze on the way with Larry. But first, let's actually see some cooking in action as well. Cooking with Beth is the segment where we take you out and about to some of Leeds' best known restaurants and looking at their signature dishes as well. And Beth is just around the corner from us here tonight, cooking some good old fashioned comfort food, pasta.
Welcome to Sato. I'd like to introduce you to Chef Yanni. Hello, Yanni.
Hi, how are you?
Now, we're going to get into the kitchen very shortly. You're going to make me wild mushroom fettuccine.
Yes, fettuccine, fresh egg pasta with wild mushrooms and a masala curry.
Lovely. Okay, well, we're going to get in there shortly. But the main question I really want to ask, other than when are you reopening, which I believe is the 17th of May?
Yes, we're geared up to open on the 17th of May. We've already got some bookings, so we're really looking forward to being back open, doors open, bums on seats, and really putting food back on plates and just having that atmosphere again. So we cannot wait for that. Yeah, we've been waiting over a year now. So yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. It's gonna go well.
It's gonna go well.
What does the word Sato mean? Sato.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So Sato means tailors. It's the Italian word for tailors, and this building used to be a big tailors. Used to be a big textile factory. Now, funny enough, my dad's side of the family are all from Leeds, and my grandma and her twin sister, they were seamstresses in this building. So they were using this building as it was called. So basically the word Sato comes from that, and it's quite funny that that has now fallen down from the family. I'm not tailoring food, but I'm tailoring plates of pasta for people. So in a way I am a tailor, but for food now.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lovely story. I really like that.
Yeah.
You've been keeping yourself busy here at Sato. I know you've been doing deliveries. A lot of people have been loving a takeaway or two at the weekend or midweek is fine. Yeah. Also kits where people can make their pasta at home. But because we are days away from reopening, I'm thinking we do it properly in your kitchen. Okay, let's go, Yanni.
Cheers. So we're just going to take a small pan. We're going to put just a little bit of olive oil in there. To that, we're going to add half a clove of garlic. Quantities wise, obviously, will change. We're going to add.
That's a whole.
Half a bulb, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
That's just going to infuse the cream. So to that pan, I've got some garlic. Then I've got some juniper berries and peppercorns. Just going to add about a teaspoon of each of them.
Made famous by Jim.
Yes. juniper berries, if you want to smell, they're very, very aromatic. Gives like a warming, almost that gin
nice.
spiced herby kind of feel. We're going to add a sprig of thyme and a couple of bay leaves. Now we're just going to start putting that on a medium heat.
There's a funky one there.
There's a funky one, yeah. So that's a shiitake.
Yeah.
So I tend to buy the misshapen ones when I go to the supermarket because they're always the cheapest.
Yeah. And you feel good because they're unloved.
You feel good because no one else wants them.
Yeah.
So
I can hear the sizzle.
You can hear this now. This is just starting to pop and sizzle. So all we're going to do is just give that a little shimmy around. All we're looking to do now is just release the flavours and for that to infuse in the oil. To that, we're just going to add about a pint of cream. Now, this is just your standard double cream. I'm just going to add there. This is all infused now. It's come up to the boil and it's just simmering. We're just going to let that sit there and then we're going to pass that and then we'll fold that through the pasta at the end.
Okay.
Low medium heat. A little bit of olive oil and just a tiny bit of butter. The butter will brown slightly in the oil and give a bit of a nutty note, and it will just help enrich the dish. Butter, oil, mushrooms. What we want to do is get a nice brown, dark coloured on the mushrooms.
Browning, not burning.
Browning, not burning, yeah. As you can see, these mushrooms, they're just starting to brown. Got the nice caramelisation. They're just getting all the colour, all the flavour. You can smell it now as well, smell those flavours. So to this, I'm probably just going to add half a cup of the cream for one portion. It's got all the deglazed juices in. That's gone a lot darker. It's a lot richer colour. You can really smell that. And then again, the cream, the reduced masala, it's all going to bind together, become a very nice velvety sauce. A couple of the small bundles that we made earlier.
Pasta.
And I'm literally just going to pop that in, and we're going to press our timer. I'm just going to add a little bit of the pasta water. The pasta water obviously has a little bit of the starch from the pasta. It will help thicken it. It will help make that sauce cling to the pasta, which is very important. I know that that's cooked now from my touch. So what we're going to do now is just going to shake off a little bit of the excess water, plonk it in there.
Yeah.
Turn the heat up again slightly. And we're literally just going to, this takes 30 seconds to do. We're literally just going to fold that cream in, give it a few flicks. With the pasta, it should cling. So we've got another 10 seconds here. You can see it's not quite clinging. So we're just going to put it back on the heat. As you can see now, that's now clinging to the sauce. It's all become one. So I'm going to turn the heat off. Final stages, going to add some fresh parsley. This will just liven up the dish, make it nice and fresh. And very important with mushrooms, you want quite a lot of pepper. Pepper's quite important. It really just brings out that creaminess, just really does. Need a bit of salt. Tiny bit of salt, one last little bit of water.
Here we go.
Then we just fold it together, try and get those mushrooms incorporated. And then we don't really do too much fancy plating, but nice bundle in the middle. We like to finish it off with a little drizzle of olive oil. So we're just going to finish this off with a few shavings of sheep rustler.
That looks so good.
And that is our finished pasta product. You can enjoy.
Okay. Right, this is going to be unelegant, but very honest.
Give it a little bit of a spin, get a little bit of that cheese on there, and then you should be able to get a nice mouthful wrapped round. Look like you're doing a good job there.
Do you know what this isn't? A first date food meal, is it? Okay. That's delicious. Messy, but delicious.
Yes. A lot of our food here is a bit messy. We really like the customers to get involved and share and enjoy.
Well, you're going to have a lot of involved customers, hopefully, second half of May.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How good does that look? Oh, I did something so about pasta, isn't there? There's just something about it. I love that style of food. And we were talking, Ben, a moment ago about meat substitutes and about how restaurants are changing as well. So it's not just the little indies, but the larger restaurants as well are really changing their approach.
Yeah, which has surprised me hugely how seriously everyone's taking it. So you've got companies like the Restaurant Group and, who've got Wagamamas. These are big players who are pledging to have, I think, 51% plant-based across their entire menu estate in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And like we were doing it at Belgrave and Water Lane Boathouse. We did that anyway. We just did it not intentionally. It just kind of happened kind of organically. But for those big companies to be kind of doing the same kind of thing is incredible, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the cynic in me says, well, it's because they'll get more customers doing it that way. But I think when we're talking about making a proper change and things globally changing, the big boys and girls have to get on board with that. The small guys can do all they want, and often that's where the change comes from, ground up.
Yeah.
But for things to really change, environmental impact of meat consumption, for instance, to really change, things need to happen at the top for that to happen.
Yeah, it's the same with anything. I remember thinking about recycling and like, it's more like me recycling once. So is that really is that going to change anything? But then as soon as the big companies start doing it and they're recycling their food waste, and before you know it, that's the difference. And it company like Meatless Farm, and there's so many plant-based companies out there, but it's becoming easy now for restaurants to do this because you've got people like me, and my job is to help these restaurants improve their plant-based offering, and it's dead easy because it's so easy to do.
Is there sometimes a bit of a reluctance with certain restaurants because they want to make everything in-house, and the idea of buying in a product that's already made isn't something they necessarily want to use?
Well, because a lot of the big boys and girls, they buy a lot of their stuff in anyway, and they have companies who make them.
Sure.
So it's kind of.
But I guess if I'm thinking about something like an Indian Leeds or someone that's running a taster menu or something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting because breaking into that kind of world hasn't happened yet. I've not, because I think anywhere a restaurant where you got chefs is getting them. Do you know what I mean by chef? Like getting them
know what
to,
they're doing.
Yeah, getting somewhere like that to. Yeah, that's the battle. That'll be interesting. Well, it's not a battle. That's just their choice not to do that. Like my friends at Ox Club, I can't imagine them ever having a. But it's the type of restaurant I can't imagine them having a plant-based burger on the menu because you wouldn't. Or Hawksmoor, they're not. I just can't see those kind of places doing it. But that's fine. That doesn't matter because there always needs to be that meat option. That there always needs to be a Hawksmoor or an Ox Club or a Gaucho or.
Yeah, I think it's diversity of choice as long as there's somewhere else that you can go.
Yeah.
If you want to find that and access it and eat it, as long as you have that option, that's the main thing.
If you main, your sort of casual dining stuff, the stuff you might pop out, you're doing your shopping on a Saturday and you want to pop for a bowl of ramen, and then suddenly you've got the option and it's easy, and it's not like you're lumped with the booby prize on the menu, which is what it was for so many years. It was like you'd go to a restaurant, it'd be med-veg lasagna
every time,
gnocchi, or it'd be something
margarita pizza.
Yeah,
it'd always be the worst as well.
Just so inspiring. It doesn't need to be that complicated. Places are understanding now. Even Frankie and Benny's, even they've got a decent plant-based range now.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't necessarily choose to eat there, but people do. And in fact, if you do go there, you haven't got one option. You've got potentially half a menu to choose from.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Speaking of evolving, the beer industry is doing that at a rate of knots right now, Larry.
It is indeed, Johnny. Welcome back to Booze Corner. And before we go anywhere, I do want you at some point to tell your story about the Sunday roast replacement being a plate of broccoli with almonds on it. Because I think
I won't mention the restaurant.
Don't mention the restaurant, but it's a beautiful story. Now, I am a serious journalist. That's why I'm here in Booze Corner. And it would be a dereliction of my duty if I didn't put my all into the next segment. Yes, it's time for Bud's Brewery Tour. And tonight we're with the enfant terrible of Leeds Brewing. That's definitely French. It's Wild Child.
Check out this beauty. We're on Armley Road, just outside of Leeds city centre, to meet an unruly beast, Wild Child Brewing. Kier's inside. Let's go and see him. Yes, Kier.
Larry, good to see you again, man.
And you too. How are you doing?
Good, mate. I'm good.
Fantastic to see you.
Thank you very
Have you
much.
expanded a bit since I last saw you? You've got that room next door. Was that here before?
No, we have. Yeah, we took that on in February 2020.
Wow.
effectively doubling our space to kind of utilise.
The good thing is nothing's happened since February 2020. It's
Absolutely,
been sort of just steady going.
It's just everything's been gathering dust next door, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, it's good to see you. Tell me about Wild Child. We're here on, just on sort of on the way to Armley, outside of the city centre.
Absolutely.
You're small but perfectly formed, getting good reputation for your beers. Where did you sort of start out and come from?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Started in a garage in 2016 by myself, at my old place in Kirkstall, and I plugged away fairly tirelessly by myself for 2 years before winning a bunch of awards and making a bit of a name for myself in the industry, if that's what you want to call it. After winning the awards, it was kind of the final nail in the coffin, if you will, where we kind of knew that we had to expand. And we found ourselves kind of 4 or 5 months later in the current unit where we are today. And in February 2018, we commenced with our first brews on the 10-barrel kit.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a surreal, fast-paced journey. And sometimes I still have to pinch myself because, yeah, it doesn't seem quite real.
Yeah, and you're busy, which is fair to say. And you do a lot of canning, which must have been... So I think probably the maker or breaker for a lot of breweries during the pandemic to have that ability.
Absolutely. Cans have been the saving grace of this brewery. Had it not been for the cans, embracing small pack, receiving the canning line in November, and having a contract with one of the big 4 supermarkets, we'd have been borderline done and dusted last year. There's no two ways about it.
You've got a reputation of doing some sort of deadly beers that are really, really drinkable.
Yeah.
One of them that I remember coming to talk to you about last year was the Leeds United beer that you did to celebrate the promotion. El Loco, of course, in honour of Mr. Bielsa himself, but also super strong. Double IPA.
Double IPA, yeah.
Is that your forte, do you think? Is it making these sort of really complex beers that are I think drinkable at the same time?
Yeah, I think it allows us to exercise our creativity more, because my favourite types of beer are strong, heavy-hitting, flavour-forward, high-percentage beers.
And it's drinking less, but of higher quality, I guess, is the idea.
Absolutely.
It's not the sort of beer that you drink 5 or 6 of.
No.
Then you
not
don't
unless
remember.
You're a masochist.
The brewing industry in Leeds feels like it's exploded in the last 10 years. What's behind that, do you think?
I think it's good Yorkshire water, to be honest with you. I think
really?
Yeah, I mean, 99% of beer is water, and it's got to be the Yorkshire water. There's definitely something in the water anyway. It's just a forward-thinking city. I mean, there's a lot of progressive minds living within this city, and I think this is kind of a progressive industry that a lot of people, creatives, people who have scientific background, want to be part of. So it definitely feels like it's the place to be in the north of England.
I can't go without trying something.
Absolutely.
You knew I was going to ask.
Yeah,
this,
absolutely.
I mean, it's early in the day, but still. So what is
5 o'clock somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what is the beer that you would recommend to someone if they were saying, give me something that represents your brewery?
Opaque Reality. Mango and passion fruit milkshake IPA. Arguably the beer that put this brewery on the map.
I feel like you're putting the pressure on my pouring skills here. Someone's going to tell me you're not supposed to tilt the glass.
That's looking good.
Is that looking all right?
Yeah, that's looking good.
Don't make a barman of me yet. All right, so remind us again, mango and passion fruit IPA.
Mango and passion fruit milkshake IPA, yeah.
5.9%, so
5.9.
A reasonably weak one for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I told you, they're drinkable. 6% drinkable is sort of not what you want, but it is what you want.
6% for me is kind of the golden ABV. That's where you can kind of drink a few, but the alcohol content also helps, like I said earlier on in the conversation, helps to carry those flavors and aromas really nicely. 6%. That's the sweet spot.
The sweet spot.
Absolutely.
Kit, it's been great to see you. I'm glad it's going well. and best of luck with the future of Wild Child.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Keir at Wild Child Brewing. Yeah, 6% is the sweet spot, apparently. You know, it did used to be, didn't it, that you'd go to a pub and you'd find like a 4% beer and that would be your range. And it might be a 5%er, and careful if you're heading for the Stella.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to have to get you a couple of cans of his El Loco, which was brewed for Marcelo Bielsa, and, you know, to celebrate the promotion to the Premier League. It's 9% double IPA, but it tastes beautiful. So that is just a dangerous situation.
Yeah, I feel like the milkshake as well. Does it got a milky tang to it?
It's just smooth like a milkshake.
Yeah.
So it's sort of got like that little bit of sweetness and smoothness to it, but it isn't like a milkshake.
Because I feel like milk shouldn't mix with beer. Apart from when you were 18 and your mum made you drink a pint of milk before going out to line your stomach.
Well, there's that. Or there's the old school milk stouts. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Your dad had a green bottle in the back of the cupboard and you mixed it with a pint of milk and it sort of made a weird Guinness.
Yeah.
But loads of these places do milk stouts now, you know, which are brewed with milk.
Yeah,
and they're nice too. But no, that's just sort of the flavour, is the milkshakey sort of sweet smoothness.
Yeah.
It is glorious.
I feel like the 9% one is for the final show tomorrow night, right at the end. Let's not get you started on that just yet. Back with more from Larry in a moment's time at Boo's Corner. Ben Davey is here from the Meatless Farm company. And we're talking about the impact that we have on the world, I guess, Ben, and that's where your company comes in. But you're also big on education as well. So it's not just about putting the products out there. It's about making kids, especially. I think you're trying to educate about 5 million kids around the world, not you personally, because that would be quite a lot of homeschooling.
Quite busy anyway. That's quite a lot of,
But I get spreading the message to the next generation that what we eat has a massive impact on the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. And then working directly with schools, again, working with the catering companies who cook for schools and do the again, making it easy for them, and how, because they won't have seen this kind of food before necessarily. So it's how you can get the meatballs on the menu and swap them out for meat ones without anyone really knowing. You don't have to tell anyone. You're just like, because kids all, what's that made of? Pea protein.
Yeah.
I understand what that is. But if you don't tell them, like even grown-ups, I've done this with fully grown adults, swap it out, try to taste that. What is it? Just to eat it, it's food. And then guess what? They like it. So yeah, that makes a massive thing, especially with kids.
So what you mentioned pea protein, because that's quite a key ingredient of what you use. What is it? How do you get protein out of a pea? It sounds like a lot of work.
So hours of massage and meditation, and eventually the pea just
lets it all go.
Yeah, just lets it all go. So it's basically turned into a flour, and then that's turned into a dough, goes through a thing called an extruder, and out pops at the end little chunks of pea protein. And you can flavour it along the way as well. At that point, it goes into recipes and is mixed with binders and flavourings, different size, different protein levels. And it's a whole different combination of things to get, depending on what you're after, whether it's mouthfeel or protein content. So it's a whole mix of. I'm making it sound quite simple because we've got a whole team of scientists who.
I know, it
deal
sounds
with
pretty
this stuff.
scientific to me.
Yeah, so it's where it's science and food kind of mixed together, and that's part of my role, is kind of add the food element, and the scientists do their thing. Incredibly intelligent people, and together you end up with something delicious.
Yeah. We've obviously been I would say on the crest of a wave of veganism, in particular over the past maybe year or two, and films like what's the Arnold Schwarzenegger one with Lewis Hamilton in it?
What about athletes?
Yeah, come on, help me out, Larry.
It's Athletes Eat Vegan
Yes,
Food.
that's one. The name will come to me. I can't remember what it is.
See, what's that on?
What's it? Game Changers.
Right.
Game Changers. It's a Netflix thing. A lot of people watched it and then thought, I'm never eating meat again. And the whole Seaspiracy thing at the moment. Do you think that this is going to last, this huge wave of interest right now, and people adopting veganism and vegetarianism?
Yeah, and whether it's adopting veganism or vegetarian, I don't know. But again, like I mentioned earlier, for me, it's cutting your intake down to something manageable and doing your bit. I don't think it's going away. I thought it was 7 years ago when we first started talking about it at Belgrade Musical. I was like, I remember saying it, and I'll quite happily admit this. Like, this is a fad. This is going to last a year. Nah, whatever. Then we did a thing called Belgrade Feast, and it was a vegan version on the January 2016, I think it was, and it was the first kind of fully vegan event in Leeds. We had 1,000 people through the day. You couldn't get, Belgrade's big, and you couldn't get in. And when you're in, people were queuing for queues. That was like, this is real. This ain't going away. And it's just grown from there, and it's incredible. And obviously things like Seaspiracy is fascinating. It's very one-sided.
Yeah, which is the same with the Game Changers. It's very one-sided.
Yeah, I'd love for someone to do a more balanced, because the problem is with the one-sided things, it's kind of, it doesn't give balance.
No, well, they have a message that they want to get across.
Yeah, but then anyone who's
message.
already a bit neutral or already swinging towards meat or and feeling a bit funny about it. I know what it'd do to me personally if that was me kind of a few years ago. Nah, I'm not listening. That's you're not giving a balanced argument. So I think I'd like to see more of these documentaries with a bit more of a balance, a bit more of like here's what you could do. Like David Attenborough, his latest documentary last year, wasn't it? At the end, it was all doom and gloom and like, oh God, this is horrific. And at the end, it's like, but guess what? If you do this, lower your meat intake, like this, do your bit in your corner of the world. Guess what? Sea life will bounce back. This will bounce back. Everything benefits. Having that, you want to know your options. No one wants to be told, don't do it. Yeah. Because immediately human nature go, I'm done. You can't tell me what to do. I know I do. Yeah. Like even Seaspiracy for me as a chef, I was like, I was trying to look for workarounds. And immediately my wife was like, you can't just look for a workaround just because you're a chef. I was like, yeah, but it's hard to watch, really hard to watch. But you kind of, you need that balance, and it is possible.
Well, speaking of which, that leads us seamlessly into Big Fat Burgers, which we're going to be talking about now, actually, because Leeds' amazing indie food scene is full of street food as well, and we're profiling different ones throughout the course of the week. Let's take a look at some juicy burgers.
Hi, I'm Mark Young. I run Little Red Food Truck with my wife, Sono. We also have the pizza bus. We have a little chicken version of this, Little Red Food Cluck. But we also have a static bar in the centre of town called Cellar Bar, and a little offshoot of that in Chapel Allerton called Canteen. So we'll take the bus and this truck behind me to various different festivals all over the UK. The pizza bus has a residency at the Brewing Social Club. We can be floating around LS8, LS7, LS17, our driveway, Chowdown, obviously. So we'd opened Cellar in 2004, and then we got to the 10th birthday and felt that we just wanted to do something just a little bit different, but we were doing pizza there. Street food was just such a new and exciting thing at that point. We'd saved up some money for a renovation for the bar, and then I blew it all on a bus to sell some pizzas and make some pizzas from, and just be a little bit out in the open air as opposed to being in a basement, which is what we'd kind of spent the previous 10 years doing. So we prefer a truck just because they just look nice and cool. So when we started doing it, it was all about the vintage style van, which probably offered a bit more sort of style over function in terms of breakdowns and not necessarily being able to get anywhere in a timely manner. Just have to add an extra couple of hours onto a journey to factor in a breakdown. But they just look nice. They just look really nice. Plus, the added advantage is you have to pack up and break down an entire kitchen every single time you go somewhere. So you'd be somewhere trading for 3 or 4 hours. If you have to set a gazebo up, you are literally pouring it all out the back of a van, back into the van 3 hours later, in the rain, in the snow. It's no real fun. Whereas, theoretically, a truck, you could just drive up, pull up, plug in, pop the hatch, and you're away. That was what appealed to us. A Little Red Food Truck, Big Mark Burger, big double patty. It's a really good burger.
Double patty. The big red food, little red food truck, I should say. And also, though, I was mentioning Juicy Burgers. I had one of their veggie burgers at the Seven Arts in Chapel Allerton. You'll be familiar with that, Larry, not so long ago. The best veggie burger. So unbelievably good, actually. And something which is not that unusual anymore, Ben. I mean, the food scene has exploded along with the veggie scene. And they go hand in hand, really, don't they? When you consider the kind of people that's going to a food event or going to a food truck, they are the kind of people that will be lapping up vegetarian food as well as the meat stuff.
Yeah, and people aren't accepting having one thing on your menu anymore as the option. people are expecting more, and the traders who are kind of keeping up with that, or the ones who are leading the way, like Mark's always had an amazing plant-based burger on his menu. Manjeet's kitchen, that's all she's ever done is plant-based. So yeah, they're the kind of the trailblazers, and everyone's doing it. If you don't, then you kind of you're missing out on a huge market.
I think one of the things I've learned, well, it was kind of obvious anyway, but because they're so nimble and able to change, is that a lot of food trends or changes in food come from the street food vendors or the smaller outlets, because they can do it quickly.
Yeah.
And it takes time to get up to the likes of the Wagamamas that you were talking about earlier, or the Pret, or wherever. They're almost a proving ground for a lot of products.
This is what, again, something I've learned since being at Meatless Farm. Like, a lot of these kind of food manufacturing companies will spend thousands of pounds on trends and looking ahead of the future. And what's been fascinating is that the stuff that's on these kind of trend platforms is the stuff that's been happening in restaurants kind of 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So like suddenly all these things like Korean barbecue and suddenly all these things that are kind of Middle Eastern kind of stuff is stuff that's been around for years, and people have been doing, like say, in street food or in independent restaurants. They're the kind of, that's where you go to get the real fresh, like way ahead of the curve stuff that sets the trends. And it's almost like there's a knock-on effect then as customers get more confidence and understand regional cuisine or whatever it is, then eventually it kind of makes its way, and before you know it, you're finding bao buns in Aldi, which is insane. Like 6 years ago, that was like, there was a couple of places in London, that was it, or New York, or obviously you go to Taiwan. So it's amazing watching this, understanding now how this trend things work, and then knowing that if you are at the forefront in street food or a local restaurant, you're probably at the start of it, and people are looking in on what you're doing, and you're the trendsetter. It's fascinating. Speaking
of trends, there's been a trend this week of Larry quaffing lots of booze, and we'll be on that train again in just a moment's time with wine and Larry's fat buns on the way. Good morning. But first, let's have a look at the bigger picture of what's been happening in Leeds. Obviously, it's been a really tough year. And now is a good chance just to sit back and reflect on what's happened and what's happening next. Obviously, Leeds is known for its amazing nightlife. So it seemed like a good opportunity to speak to Phil Harrison. He's from the Escapism Bar Group, and they've got around 8 bars around Leeds, including the Cool Lane Social and Brooklyn Bar, where I caught up with him earlier. Phil, thank you very much for having us down here. I have to say I'm very excited, because I think this is the first time I've been stood at a bar, certainly, in probably the best part of a year.
I think most people are looking forward to getting stood at the bar as well.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously are someone that your life is all about bars and hospitality. You've got 6 bars around Leeds, so it must have been a long year for you the past 12 months, Phil.
Yeah, I've tried to forget most of it, but yeah, it's been a long time, really. I think just a lot of uncertainty, really, throughout the year. Obviously, with goalposts changing daily, and uncertainty of where the end would be. I think even the second lockdown was supposed to be like a 3-week lockdown, and I think even around Christmas time, we managed to stock up, ready for Christmas completely, install the kitchens, brought all the food in, and we were waiting, and then it was no. And then lo and behold, it was another 4 months before we got open again. Yeah. So it's crazy times.
I mean, not only in business, so I don't know, but as I understand it, it's the uncertainty that is probably one of the most difficult things for anybody to deal with. And especially somebody like yourself that is looking after 6 bars across Leeds, that must have been one of the most difficult things.
Yeah, well, we've got a team of like 70 as well, and the bulk of those are aged 20 to 30, really. And obviously, a lot of those, we have to try and reassure them about their future and their income, really, that they're going to be looked after, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, really, and keep going.
Did you feel supported then? Did you have that support out there?
I think Leeds City Council's been really good. I think the licensing department, even the people that would usually come out and do the regular checks to check you're compliant, they're writing emails to you saying, you know, we're supporting you, we're behind you. And it's really nice to hear that. And everything from having the call lane fast track so that we could have pedestrian seating, so that we could open in April and get back open again. That's been really good.
Yeah. One of the things that people might not think about is actually for some of the bigger hospitality businesses like yourself, it's actually been quite difficult getting financial support. I think there's the assumption that because you're big or bigger, financially you'd be okay. Perversely, a lot of the money was funneled to the smaller indies.
Yeah, it's a real. We've got a mixed bag really of different size venues, and the way it was set up was around business rates really, and falling between certain categories. And there was a lot of businesses really that are, I would consider to be small businesses that have rateable values of about £55,000 a year, which receive nothing really. And obviously those businesses would have high rents. And so, yeah, they fell through the net on a lot of occasions and didn't get any support. And unfortunately for those guys, they would still have to pay that rent, and everything will just be adding up. So it's not the end of the tunnel yet. I think it's going to take another year or so for everybody to get back on track really and clear the debts that they've amounted to get to this point.
How hard has it been then in getting to this point? Did you find yourself thinking, I'm not sure if we're actually going to make it out of this?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. I'm a really positive person. So, but I would imagine lots of other people would have really struggled with it. The one good thing that's come out of this is a lot of the independent bars in Leeds, and there is a lot of us. We're all on the same WhatsApp group, and yeah, we're all supporting each other. If there's a grant to be had or somebody needs some support to do something, we're all there for each other, and that's made us a lot more of a sort of tighter community, definitely.
I'm guessing as well, Leeds being the food and drink city that it is, people being so desperate to get back to the likes of here, that's really been a shot in the arm when actually people could come back out again. Yeah.
I mean, there's always that worry that people get new sort of ways of living really, and get used to going to the supermarket and staying home. But yeah, I think after the first lockdown, it was very evident that people, they've been starved of having social interaction with others and just itching to get out. And you only have to look through what's been going on in the last week, really, with people sat outside venues with a beer and the friends in a poncho in the driving rain, just to get out. And they're like, I've made this booking, I am coming. I've been looking forward to this. I'm not bothered about the rain.
I've mentioned this before, but there is a dramatic increase in the amount of people taking hot water bottles out with them. That's a thing right now.
Yeah,
right?
The blankets and hot water bottles. Yeah.
It's so true though about the social aspect. There's only so many Zoom quizzes that you can have on a Friday night with friends. And after a year, they start to wear pretty thin. So the fact that Leeds is really building itself around hospitality, around drinking out and around eating out is also a real testament to the likes of you guys that are providing something that people are just desperate for.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think what I was going to say about the hot water bottles and blankets, the good thing is that's going to be over in about 10 days.
Yeah.
So people can actually come in then.
Yeah.
And just enjoy, the warmth again if it is, if it is a bit of a cold day, and get out.
How are you feeling about the future then with that in mind?
Great. Well, I mean, the next step obviously is in a couple of weeks, and that is literally just like when we've reopened back in July last year. So that's just socially distanced inside. That's really simple for us. It worked really well. Our customers really enjoyed it. We've got great table service. We make sure our hosting is right on key really. So yeah, that really excited about that. And then got another eye on the bit where we're back to complete normality as well, which is in June, and that would be fantastic. That would be like the end then of this nightmare. Yeah, back to normality.
We'll be happy to come and share a drink with you.
Yeah, really looking forward to that.
Thank you so much for having us down. Feel free to just leave me here because I'm just going to sniff the air a little bit and get very excited at standing at a bar. Phil, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Phil Harrison from Escapism Bar Group, and we haven't seen Johnny since, so we don't know what happened there. What was that now? Yes, it is wine o'clock. You're quite right. Thank you for asking about that. Laura, welcome to the show. This is Laura Kent from Yorkshire Wine School. If you were watching the show yesterday, it was last night, wasn't it, Johnny? It was
last night. You probably won't remember.
I don't remember that much, but I don't have a hangover because I went through a bit of organic and natural wine because I had to taste it. And we had quite a bit in a short period of time. And now, Laura, you are going to teach me how to properly taste this wine. But before you do, just tell me a bit about Yorkshire Wine School, how long you've been going, that sort of thing.
I was going to say we should have done this the other way around. I should have taught you, and then I could have handed you over to Wayward, and then. But never mind.
I could have had a spittoon.
Yes.
Then I wouldn't have had to, drink.
You've done it all properly. Yeah. Yes. Let me tell you about the Yorkshire Wine School. Then we are rapidly approaching our 10th birthday, actually. So happy birthday to us. I set up the wine school back in 2011, principally just off the back of what I'd learned from working firstly in hospitality, loads of restaurants, hotels, bars, and then a good stint in wine retail where I took all the kind of wine qualifications and things. And the recession hit, I got made redundant. I was completely sort of despondent. I've got all these qualifications, no one's hiring, there's no jobs. And I just was, I suppose, inspired by a few other people I knew who were running wine courses and wine appreciation and wine clubs, all this sort of stuff. And I thought you could definitely do this more officially, more formally. And so I learned how to drive in 2 weeks, threw everything into the back of a car that I just bought very, very quickly, drove to Leeds and kept on my friend's sofa for about 6 months and set up Yorkshire Wine School. And now we've got bases all over the county, and we just bring people in who want to learn maybe a little bit more about wine in the beginning. They're just curious, but by the time we're finished with them, they're properly like qualified up to the max, all, sommelier, WSET, they know everything that you could possibly know about wine.
Okay, we've got 6 minutes. Can we get me to sommelier in 6 minutes?
I reckon so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so what have you brought in for us to try today?
I was instructed to bring in some tasty wine.
That's good.
So
producers are doing their job.
Welcome to the selection of tasty wine that I have for you. Okay, let's begin. Oh, I should get the quick plug in. All wines available in good independent local wine shops. I went sniffing around at Latitude Wines.
Yeah, wonderful place.
And also Once Upon a Vine in Horsforth for these. So check out your local indie and they can help you out with some of these. Fizz to start with, because you asked me, will I need a palate cleanser of water in between?
I did ask that.
And
I
said, you won't need a palate cleanser of water because I've bought a palate cleanser of fizz.
Okay.
Right. So the way you taste sparkling wine is more like the way you taste beer, actually, because it's already fizzy. So you don't need to swill it around.
I just did that, didn't I? You saw me do that.
This is why you need a lesson.
Yeah. Hopefully nobody saw me do that.
Yeah, just down here. you don't need to swill it around because essentially the bubbles are going to lift all the aromas out of the glass.
Right.
So just like when you do proper beer tasting, because we also do beer courses, we do beer courses as well, by the way. You don't swill the beer around because you just make it flat. So here we just take the glass, we give it a little sniff. Now this is unusual fizz because it's actually made from a grape variety called Riesling, which a lot of people firstly have a bad impression of because they think kind of, oh, nasty German wine from the 70s, all sweet and sickly. And firstly, German wine is not nasty, it's delicious.
Blue Nun's great.
Blue Nun, maybe not so much, but Blue Nun's not made from Riesling, so I maintain that it's still fine. Yeah. This beautiful Riesling is made into fizz because it's made in Australia. So they're a bit kooky, they like to do some unusual things with it. But the giveaway that it's Riesling is when you smell it, it's got a very unusual, but I think highly delicious aroma, which is a little bit like petrol.
Okay, I should be getting petrol from this.
Sort of think BP
I'm so suggestive because I just went straight back in and went, oh yeah, petrol.
Yeah, slightly petrol-y, slightly like oily.
Suggestible was the word, wasn't it? Not suggestive. That's a different thing.
That's a different thing.
Yeah, that's a different
That's after you've had a few more glasses of wine.
That's the late night show. That's next week.
So yeah, it's got this lovely sort of complex aroma. We talk about Riesling being quite kerosene or quite petrolic. Then because we've got the fizz, we've got what we call lovely autolytic flavors. The fizz is in the wine because of the fact it's been through 2 fermentations. So because of the second fermentation, the flavor of the yeast is that much more pronounced. So next we'll go, and again, when you're tasting fizz, you don't have to swish it around in your mouth so much because again, the carbon dioxide is going to help to just pop the flavors all over there. But do kind of keep it in your mouth for a second or two. And again, it's got that really intriguing, slightly kind of suggestive of like wax or petrol, even slightly rubbery, but then it's just got beautiful citrus. You get like lime, lemon, bit of pink grapefruit, just zinging through. It's like uber refreshing.
So the way to taste this, it sounds like, is to not muck around too much.
Absolutely.
Don't swill it, don't
swabble it. Just let the wine tell you the story.
Yeah. Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. Right.
See me getting a cheeky second little glass in there. Okay, right.
I'm not going to down it today, Johnny. You'll be pleased to know.
No, I'm not pleased at all because I thoroughly enjoyed the other night.
How much more show have you got to do?
We've got 4 hours.
Okay. So next up, again, not a grape variety that has a bad rep. Most people haven't heard of this grape variety, but a wine style that's had a bad rep. This is a wine from Alsace. Again, a lot of people will take a look and they're like, ooh, that shaped bottle. We call it a fluted bottle. They don't like it. Slightly kitsch 70s mustard yellow wine label. They're like, not going anywhere near that. This is actually beautiful, really quite modern style of Alsace wine. French, not German. But
Southeast France. On the border with
northeast France,
near.
That's what I meant.
sort of Strasbourg, borders with Luxembourg.
Yeah.
In that sort of not quite the south, but
Luxembourg was Wales. Anyway, okay.
Up there. It's a grape variety called Pinot Blanc.
Yeah.
A relative of, surprisingly enough, Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Pinot Grigio, all the famous Pinot grapes. No one ever remembers Pinot Blanc.
And you are swilling this one around.
This one I am, because it's not fizzy. So we'll just give it just a gentle little swirl around. And now we have a sniff. Now this is a more aromatic grape, so it's a bit more floral.
Yes, I was about to say flowers.
Got like white blossom, bit of honeysuckle. It's quite refreshing. Think like orchard fruits. Get a bit of apple and pear in there.
Okay.
Just nice. In Alsace, this is what they drink whilst they are trying to decide what they're going to have to drink that evening.
Excellent. I like that sort of drink.
Yeah, my kind of people.
Yeah. You do that with Jägermeister, don't you?
It's the warm-up to the aperitif, essentially.
Right, okay.
This time, we are going to swish it all the way around.
Okay.
What I like about this wine is it's quite mouth-coating, soft and juicy, but still refreshing. Can you feel, after you've swallowed the wine, that your mouth's watering a little bit down the sides?
Yes, I can feel that.
That's from the acidity in the wine. So instead of saying like the wine's really sharp, which sounds like a bad thing, we say the wine leaves a mouth-watering finish. That now sounds like a good thing.
Right, okay.
But essentially,
so it's all in the marketing.
It's just saying, of course, it's food and drink. It's always in the marketing. It needs to taste delicious, but it needs to be presented to the people in the right ways. Ooh, a nice long mouth-watering finish. That is the acidity in the wine is actually stimulating your mouth to release saliva. And that's what makes it kind of like moreish. You want to go back for another.
So if I'm drinking a white wine that isn't sparkling, I should give it a swill around the glass, and I should give it a swish around my mouth.
Yes, because both of those things will encourage oxygen to interact with the wine, and it's the oxygen that releases all of the volatile aroma and flavor compounds.
Okay.
So you're just really turning up the volume on all of the smells and the tastes in the wine. If you just let it sit all in the glass like that, you're never going to release them.
I feel like I'm on my way to being an expert.
You've got the lingo now.
Yeah, I've got the lingo. They're the two whites then that you've brought. And you've got a couple of reds as well. There will be some left for you, Johnny.
Will there be?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm starting to get a little bit anxious, if I'm honest. Over here.
But Johnny,
and Ben's wondering why he's bothered coming.
Johnny and Ben, we've got a glass each over here, so you're going to need to.
So I'm going to have to get rid of this.
Choose your weapon. And
this is how it all started. Yeah.
Okay.
2 nights ago. That's the problem.
Was it 2 nights ago?
It was.
Okay, so 2 reds that I've bought for you. I'll move my glass over there. Okay, start off in Europe. Well, we're sort of in Europe from before. Stay in Europe. This time for an Italian red wine. It's made from a grape variety called Sangiovese. So Sangiovese is famous in Italy principally for the wine known as Chianti.
Yeah.
Chianti is.
I've heard of that from Silence of the Lambs.
Yes, everyone's always heard of Chianti because of Silence of the Lambs and the fava beans and the liver and everything else.
Drink this with human flesh. Yep.
And
I've heard the joke too many times. That's the problem.
I was going to say the other thing depends on the age of the people at home. The other thing they might know about Chianti is that it comes in a very fancy bottle with a kind of wicker basket woven around the bottom of it. But you might be a bit too young to remember those wines. They belong to the bad old trattorias of the 1980s and things, but it's the little kind of visual reference. But this is not a Chianti.
Okay.
This is the same grape variety that's used in Chianti, but it's from an area quite close by, an area near the town called Brunello. So the wines there are much sort of heftier and kind of fruitier, if you like. Right. A lot of Chianti is slightly sour, slightly acidic. It means it goes very well with sort of tomato-based food. But this, I would say, which is not classified as a Brunello di Montalcino because those would be very expensive, but it's like a baby Brunello.
Okay, so you're swilling this one again.
For sure.
That's good. So, and then don't we say something about the legs when it comes to red wine? I've seen this on television programs.
Have you?
Yeah.
They've misled you.
Right, okay.
You can say something about the legs if you really, really want to.
Lovely
it's kind
legs.
of one of those very boring and I think not entirely true sort of bit of wine speak, because essentially any wine, when you swill it around the side of the glass, yeah, you can see that residue is rolling down the side there, and that's what they call the legs.
The legs. But it has nothing to do with the flavour of the wine, right?
All wines do it, and they all do it because there's alcohol. And alcohol makes the liquid more viscous, and that's what makes it cling to the side of the glass.
I'll stop talking about legs.
I've just checked it. Yes, this wine does actually contain alcohol. Phew, let's move on.
What a relief.
So, it's something that
So a bit of a swill.
doesn't really.
I'm really worried about spilling it here. You've got a good swill action going on.
Yeah,
there.
because you hold it on the stem, and you've just got a better control of the center of gravity. In the middle, it gives you nice.
Do I look like an expert now? Does I look like one?
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. Give it a sniff.
Nose in. Oh, that smells nice. Doesn't it? I like wines that smell like they're really fruity, like they could be Ribena. What an awful thing to say.
Like red cherries, black cherries, and just a little dusting of cocoa powder, bit of dark chocolate. Again, give it a swirl around your mouth. This time, we won't look for acidity, although, of course, the wine still has acidity, or wine does. Instead, this time, we'll look for tannin.
Got to do that first time round.
Got a bit too carried away.
Yeah. So what does tannin taste like? What am I tasting there?
Tannins, I suppose, broadly, they give you quite a bitter taste.
Right.
But it's more about the astringency or the sensation of dryness inside your mouth. And that's because tannins react with protein they find in your saliva, and they bind to anything with protein.
Right.
So as soon as the tannins feel the protein in your saliva, it's like sticking some cotton wool in your mouth. It's going to suck up all of the saliva. But if we were eating like one of Ben's wonderful, still protein-rich, plant-based foods, the wine would stick to that protein, not the protein in your saliva. So that's why
it's something to have with food.
A lot of people prefer red wine with food so that it's another source of protein in your mouth, and the wine's going to stick.
Brilliant. Now, we're running out of time, so we'll have to just skip on the fourth wine, but I will get Johnny and Ben to choose what you're going to go for.
Well, maybe they should try the fourth one.
Oh, I was going to say I want the one that looks like a bottle that Tom Selleck would have drank in the 70s.
This one?
Yeah.
Maybe that one.
He'd be lying on a rug with a tiger next to him.
The Pinot Blanc.
Yeah.
Here you go then, Johnny.
It just reminds me of my mum and dad drinking in the 80s. That, and I think there's like a mid-century feel.
You get a good
like a Larry Bud taster glass.
Ben, will you be?
I'll take this one.
The one that we've not tried. Okay.
What is it?
We're back to Australia, and this is a Shiraz from the Langhorne Creek, which is
classic.
That is lovely. I tell you what, get into that.
My favourite creek.
We'll have a look at what else is happening around Leeds, because it's not just about obviously what's happening here in the city centre. It's obviously what's happening around the suburbs of Leeds, which is where our man Harry Johns comes in from Holy Mountain Kitchen. Let's see where he is tonight.
Welcome to What's the Move in collaboration with Leeds Indie Food. We're in Chapel Allerton. It's a beautiful day. There's loads of pushchairs everywhere. Let's check it out. So we've just hit Chapel Allerton, and we're going to have a lovely coffee and a bit of breakfast at House of Cocoa, which I think once upon a time used to be a pretty straight up and down breakfast spot, and now new management, new chefs, new vibe, booze, something a little bit dirtier going on in the kitchen, but also a little bit more refined out the front as well. I've ordered a Reuben sandwich, Reuben toasted sandwich. We're going to start this day off right, aren't we, Jack? We're going to be exploring Chapel Allerton. Oh, mate. Now, disclaimer, I'm biased because one of my best mates in the universe is a head chef here, but it's a little bit more cash now. It's like, you know, they sell booze and filthy brunch options, as well as like some nice bougie, you know, bits. This is a Reuben sandwich, which I guess traditionally should be like sauerkraut, pastrami, cheese, Swiss. beautiful bread. Pastrami, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, pastrami, yep. Pickled cucumber, melted cheese, bit of mustard. You can't go wrong. What a great sandwich to start the day. Word on the street is House of Coco's going to start opening at night times as well. Small plates. It's got a beautiful outdoor area. Just a lovely, casual start to a beautiful summer's morning. So I've just been to George and Joseph in the heart of Chapel Allerton. George and Joseph, man, like they've helped me out on a bunch of events. Cheese connoisseurs, one might say. I went in there, the lady said, here are 3 cheeses that truly represent what George and Joseph are about. And they're 3 Yorkshire cheeses. We've got a Dale End cheddar, Yorkshire pecorino, Yorkshire blue. I think it's probably fair to say George and Joseph are like the cheese kings of Leeds or whatever. And just around the corner is Wayward Wines. So let's go and see if they'll give us a nice glass of wine to have with this. Wayward's closed, but it's worth a shout out. Wayward was closed, but further north is open. North Bar is probably like one of Leeds' best success stories. Like, started off in town, little beer bar, before like beer got trendy. Now they've got like a bunch of breweries and little bars and further north in Chapel Allerton. I reckon it might be my favourite. So cozy. Half a Sputnik to go with this cheese. I'll have a little sip. I feel like if you know Leeds, you know North Bar, you know North Brewing. Now we're going to go find a green spot and eat this cheese and drink this beer.
I'm from Iraq.
Okay, no, don't.
It's next door to Hungary.
I'm gonna have right. I don't know what I'm talking about with cheese. I'm not like a cheese guy. Do you know what I mean? But well, I'm a cheese guy. I just don't know too much about it. So this is all cheese. This is made in Yorkshire.
Cheers. Welcome to Leeds.
That's a bit of cheddar.
Yeah. That looks like it's been in the loft.
Well, I mean, cheese is aged, right? So
Yeah, I know.
And I'm gonna go Yorkshire Blue. I've had this before. I think people are probably quite familiar with Yorkshire Blue, but creamy.
I quite like
It's
this.
blue, but it's not
I'm quite happy with
tart,
this.
whatever the word is. You into it? Give me some descriptive words. Pecorino, that's good with pasta.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Okay. I learn something new every day.
Hot pasta, pecorino, a little salt, pepper, and then a little bit of oil, like good olive oil, and it all emulsifies together. So that's been Chapel Allerton, a beautiful breakfast and a lovely coffee at House of Coco. A stride through the streets of Chapel Allerton. Get some really nice cheese from George and Joseph. Meet the locals. Have a beer. Lovely leafy suburb of Leeds, Chapel Allerton. That's the move. Leeds indie food. Get it.
Leafy North Leeds. Thank you, Harry, who's in Chapel Allerton for us tonight. And I'm in Boo's Corner. It would be remiss of me not to mention Casper's Bottle Shop in Chapel Allerton, which sells a load of local brews. And it's a beautiful place that you can spend your weekly income with no trouble at all. Now, we are in Boo's Corner, but we've converted it into Food Corner. If you're a Leeds foodie, I don't even know what one of those is. You had quite a bit of wine earlier. You will be familiar with the Swine That Dines, and Joe Myers is here from the Swine That Dines. Hello, Joe. Thank you for coming in, because everybody is talking about your fat buns.
Beef fat buns.
Your beef fat buns. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Get the hashtag right. Yeah.
You have to get the intonation right as well, don't you? Otherwise, it does sound like something rather rude. But just tell us about the Swine That Dines first of all, because you are well known and popular in Leeds. What's your sort of backstory?
We've had various incarnations. We started off as a Greedy Pig. We've just had 10 years being there in April. Didn't get to celebrate because we were closed.
Yeah.
And then we started the Swine That Dines as a monthly pop-up in the Greedy Pig. Called the Swine That Dines because I asked on Twitter what we should call it. And so now we're stuck with it. But it's memorable. And that started off as once a month, and it went to once a week. And then it got to the point where there was a greedy pig in the day and the swine that dines in the evening, and they were both competing, and we had to say goodbye to one of them. So we said goodbye to the greedy pig, and swine that dines just went from strength to strength.
Yeah.
And then lockdown.
Of course.
Yeah.
You had lockdown, which of course was a difficult time, as Johnny's mentioned a few times, a very difficult time for so many in the hospitality industry. But your beef fat buns got more and more people talking about them. So just tell us what we're looking at in this show and tell section of the show.
When we were prior to lockdown, we always bought our bread in. And I always said, and I do all the pastry, and I always said, I can't do bread. It just doesn't work. It doesn't like me. And then when we reopened in October, margins really tight, can't afford to buy bread. So I started making my own bread. Turns out I can make bread.
Well done.
But all I needed to do was put beef fat in it.
Yeah. Was that a happy accident though, or did you just...
I'd seen somebody doing lamb fat pastry, and I thought, well, if you can put lamb fat in the pastry, you can put beef fat in bread. So this is like a brioche, so which you can usually put butter in it. So I started off just working with the ratios, and beef fat works. I've tried other fats. I've tried pork fat, doesn't really go.
Right.
So, but a fat's a fat. It's just about working and seeing what you get. And if you have the bun by itself, you don't really notice. But what it does do is it makes the beef beefier.
Yeah, well, I'm into that. We were talking before we went on air about that amazing smell you get if you cook a beef rib in the oven or something, and the fat starts to render, and then you take it out, and chef's privilege, you get to cut off the beef fat and just eat that before anybody else in the family. Sorry about this, Johnny, because this isn't
apologise, Larry.
Up your street. But Ben, you're all right with a bit of meat eating.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you want to come up here and go for some of these beef fat buns? We'll have to tuck in a little bit so we can see. I don't know how clearly you can see it on the close.
Beef fat bun, you've got lovely, juicy salt beef.
Can we see that?
And then a black
Stuart's
pepper
pickles
cream.
as
I know,
well.
Stuart is so good at pickles.
Pickle
So
master.
every bun that we do, there's a different pickle
Nice
to
way
go
of
with
doing
it.
Cheers.
Cheers. What's the sauce that's in?
That is, so the...
We've got one now.
Ben was laughing at inhaling
You've
something.
got a black pepper cream cheese.
Yeah.
And then it's just juiciness.
And what sort of cut of beef is it?
It's salt beef is brisket. So it'll be salted first, and then just the way Stuart cooks the salt beef with loads of aromatics in there, just really takes care of it.
Oh, so it's really simple, but it's not, because you know what's gone into it. You know
What we went to Brick Lane Bagel not that long ago. So really unassuming shop on Brick Lane in London. You walk in there and they just chuck bagels at you. But one of the best eating experiences that we've had, and that's our version of a.
I'm going to wash it down with a bit of wine as well, which nobody else has. So
it's the first bit of meat I've eaten for a while.
Well, you've got to make it count.
Excuse me if I don't talk for the next half an hour.
So not only have you got your beef fat buns, you've got something that Johnny can eat here. So what's in here? You come up, Johnny.
So
thank goodness.
Tuck right in.
I can get my hands on this.
I have been trying for years to get the perfect ice cream sandwich. I've done. Ice cream.
You loiter.
Which one have you got? You should have. I've got three flavors here.
You tell me.
I've got a banoffee. I think you.
Is this a vanilla?
No, that will be peanut butter. PBJ.
PBJ.
So you've got a banana cake, peanut butter ice cream,
Yeah.
and a grape jelly.
Oh my goodness.
You've got malted chocolate.
I'm going to sit in
And
a corner.
then the banoffee is really messy.
Right.
This is a beautiful thing,
isn't it?
Is this the best day of your life, Ben? So far?
One of
wine, meat, ice cream.
Suddenly improving.
Perfect.
I spent ages trying to work out what is the best way to do an ice cream sandwich. And I spent ages messing around.
That's the best way to do it.
Well,
whatever you've done there, that is the best way to do it. That is absolutely beautiful. I tell you what, that's indulgent.
it was
as well,
a light
Joe,
bulb
isn't it?
moment when I realised you can use sponge and you don't have to use cookies. And from that, the amount of variations just go huge. So you've got a really rich chocolate sponge. That's a banana cake, because everybody made banana cake in lockdown, didn't they?
Everybody did.
Everybody did.
Joe, it's been so great to see you, and thank you for bringing these in. Just tell me a bit about what's going on with Swine That Dines, because obviously you're quite a small
We're tiny.
place.
Yeah.
So difficult in terms of social distancing. What's your plan for the medium?
It doesn't work for
term
social
future?
distancing.
Okay.
We're not sad, because the swine will come back stronger, better. Just at the moment, it's here comes the bun. And we're going to have a couple of months just having a bit of fun. And you've got to eat food when the chef is having fun.
Yes, well, they're magnificent, and thank you so much for coming on and bringing in these. And luckily, nobody else eats meat in this entire production. So all four
We
of
do
those for me.
vegetarian options.
Thank you so much. That is a thing of beauty. It really is. Ben, thank you ever so much for being here. You should be thanking us.
I know.
Look at the day that you've had.
Total perks.
Just finally, before we do go, what's next for the Meatless Farm company? Because what a success story it's been for the past few years.
Yeah, keep on growing. We're not slowing down. It's kind of the plans are massive. So it's kind of for the next 5 years and just keep pushing it.
Global domination.
Also worth mentioning, we're opening. Oh, this is a separate project, but we've got a ramen restaurant opening as well.
Great.
In with some old friends from Belgrave and Hedgerow, the old head chef from Oxford, Ben Eiley, who spent 10 years in Japan.
Fantastic. Where will that be?
Right next to Hedgerow House, the old William Hill site.
What's it called?
House of Foo.
House of Foo.
So we've got ramen,
Yeah.
gyoza, rice bowls downstairs, karaoke, and a cocktail bar.
That's the Holy Trinity, right?
Yeah. We were doing ice cream sandwiches, but I'm probably not going to do that. These are amazing.
Thanks so much to everybody tonight. Thank you to Ben. Of course, thank you to Joe. Thank you to Laura as well for the wine. And thank you to you for being here. We'll play you out with some music as ever. This is some beautiful harmonies from some fantastic dream folk. This is the Sunflower Thieves playing us out tonight on Digital Food TV. We'll see you tomorrow night at the same time. Take care. Cheers.
Hi, we're Sunflower Thieves, and this is our latest single, Don't Mind the Weather. All that you are, all that I've been, keep me inside under your skin. Hold me in silence, I'm not trying. I'll be inside here and hide. Show me it's safe on the side of the door. Oh, when the moon draws me to you, draws me to you. Something so silver feels so familiar. Maybe it's true. The tide will carry us through. Tell me your fears, pull me under. The further we dive, the more we uncover. When you decide to swim to the surface, take it all in, we deserve. You'll see we're never too far from the shore. Oh, when the moon draws me to you, draws me to you. Something so silver feels so familiar. Maybe it's true. The tide will carry us through the water, through the thunder. If the winter's heavy on your shoulders, through the water, through the thunder. If the winter's heavy on your shoulders, oh, when the moon draws me to you, draws me to you. Something so silver, don't mind the weather when I'm with you. The tide will carry us through. Maybe it's true, the tide will carry us through. Maybe it's true, the tide